Thank you for joining me for another episode of Empower Apps. Today I'm joined by Tjeerd Intveen. Tjeerd, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Really excited to be here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before we begin, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Okay. Yeah. So my name is Tjeerd. My You may know me from maybe writing Swift in Depth. I've been working at Twitter for the last year, which circumstances changed, as people may know. And before that, I also worked at ING for 5 years, where I helped scale up quite a substantial code base. So yeah, been a Swift developer, iOS developer for since iOS 4, I think. So quite a while.
Nice. That's a long history. So today we're going
Yeah.
to be talking about a book you're working on. You want to talk about what that book is and
Yeah. Yeah.
why
So
people
right.
should be interested?
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting because so I'm writing mobile system design, but it's more I guess a contemporary topic because nowadays people are there've been honestly quite a bunch of layoffs and people are applying to jobs and they really associate it with interviews. But what I find interesting is if you ask someone what mobile system design is, they kind of go like, yeah, maybe it's about a modular app, or it's some say it's about interviews, and some say it's about like UI flows or any type of answer. Um, but what I think you see a lot is like it's usually backend associated, right? Like if you think about mobile, or if you think about system design, you think about backend, like the backend interview process. But I feel like, yeah, but what about mobile itself? Like I know the joke is we just make JSON apps and we render them in some scroll view, but like if you take a serious app, that's totally not the case. You have like thousands of little decisions you're making just to make features, to keep adding features, like abstractions, etc. So I figured, like, yeah, like mobile system designer would be nice to write. I have been writing before, so I'm just taking a stab at it. Yeah.
So can I describe exactly what you mean by mobile systems design? Like,
Yeah.
are we talking UI design? What do we mean by system? Like, kind of break that down.
Yeah. So well, the fun part is it's not really defined. So I'm just trying to define it, right? like if you look in the dictionary, maybe you can find something. But how I look at mobile system design is you get like a requirement, something to make as a mobile developer, right? We make things, obviously, but how you approach that can be wildly varied, right? Some person just goes straight into the UI and just makes stuff and makes it work. Another person thinks about maybe all the edge cases and draws the diagrams and like thinks about like all the domains that are happening. So when I think about mobile system design, I think about like receiving the specs and requirements and coming up with some sort of system, like yeah, almost like in a graph way, like what is needed to make these requirements work. So uh, let's take an example. For example, let's say someone asks, "Hey, can you make a video uploader?" Now, one person may think like, "Oh yeah, I'm just gonna." They may think very UI wise, right? They may think I'm gonna grab the photo picker and filter it on video, and then I click it and then we'll upload. But another person may think, video upload of videos, they're large files, so they need to be stored. They need to be uploaded it's going to take a long time because they're large files, so maybe we need to chunk them. A lot of the app is backgrounded, so they can think more maybe in these edge cases and all these like constraints. And I think that's more where I'm leaning to with mobile system design is like you get like a requirement and like a thing that needs to be made, and you can figure out all the parts that are needed and also all the problems you may hit. Also working with your team, like how does it work for backend? What do they need? So for your feature to work and so on. So I think it's maybe a long answer, but I feel like that's kind of where it goes, right? Into the sort of the domain types.
Well, that's what I found really interesting about the book is one of the things you really tackle is asking the right questions. Because I feel like that's a real difficulty. I think you use the line
Yeah.
like so there's known unknowns and then there's unknown unknowns, and that's like the one of the bigger challenges with designing a mobile app, right?
Yeah, yeah. Like if you receive a feature, usually as a mobile developer, you get them by getting UI designs, and I think the real power there is to really dive deep because if you ask the right questions, you can maybe even skip a couple sprints of work because you may already tackle out some problems. So yeah, like you said, there are like known unknowns. Like I know I don't know yet how I'm gonna make this I don't know backend call, or I know I don't know yet how I will have to cache this data, but I know I have to. And then there are, like you said, the unknown unknowns. Like, yeah, like I'm gonna hit more issues or maybe not, and I have to keep that into account. And it's about asking proper questions to sort of uncover those during the briefing already.
Yeah. So like what do you think is a good way to like make sure you ask those right questions before it's too late?
Yeah, so well, a couple ways you can do this. I think one thing I like to do is sort of try to break the feature, and like this maybe like a negative feel, but like thinking like what can I do to make this feature really go bad? Like so yeah, let's take an example. Let's take again this video uploader, right? Like if someone gives me screens and says here, make this video uploader, I'm gonna open Swift UI and I'm gonna make a video uploader screen. Like you're gonna hit some problems later on, because like video uploading is its own kind of beast. So it's about figuring out, like going through the motions, like okay, like just pretending like I have the feature working. How would that look like? I know I have UI, but like think about like where does the data go? What kind of data models do I need? But how does that reflect in UI? Is the video, for example, on my device? And if not, well, then maybe it needs to be downloaded. Maybe the designer didn't think about that first. Maybe they think the videos are available. So it's
Right.
about asking those kind of questions and going through the feature and trying to find those kind of pitfalls. Because if, let's say, the designer did not think about like the video needs to be downloaded first, and you figured it out, like you can already get the designer started on iterating their design while you're already working on other things. So you may save maybe a week of work, because maybe if you do it later, you're like, oh crap, the videos are not downloaded. Well, then now the designer has to work much later in the process, and maybe you now delay the project. So,
Right.
so yeah, it's about finding those problems.
Um one thing I want to talk about, and especially this could be the case with video uploading, is error handling. Some like designers think that the app is going to work all the time, but with video uploading, that's as somebody
Yeah,
who's uploaded tons of video, trust me, like oh, the upload quit in the middle, or you
yeah,
lost internet connection, or the video
found
codec
fun.
isn't right for what the service
Yeah.
is expecting. I mean, there's like tons of issues you can run into that just happen in the real world. How can you best address those issues, both for yourself, but also something that the UI designer should consider?
Yeah, so error handling is a very deep topic. It can go from the ones and zeros all the way to the customer UI facing errors. Um, I think from a designer perspective, I think you're more in the realm of customer facing UI, so like errors that cannot be handled by the app, and you have to present something to the customer for them to take action, or from them. I think it's good to think about like what kind of things can go wrong with errors. A couple things. So like you have to think about like what kind of errors are customers gonna see? How can they recover? Can they recover? But also maybe what about partial errors? Let's say you have a screen that needs to fetch 4 types of data to populate the screen. What if three of those API calls go well, one doesn't? We can be lazy and just throw up an alert, okay? But we can maybe make it more like nice, where each component has its own little error message option in there, so it's more
Yeah.
embedded,
Yep.
and that may make the component more reusable as well. You can maybe put it somewhere else, and it can maybe show errors better. So I think it's good to think about like how your data loads. If it's going to go going to be one package or piecemeal pieces, um, and how the customer can or a user can recover. I think are already good starting points. Other than more than just show an alert. I think that's the easy way out.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's a good way. Like just having a way that the user can actually recover from that error or retry or whatever it is.
Yeah,
Um,
stuff like that.
yeah. Are there ways that a UI design possibly could be misleading, and maybe also like, well, let's address that one first before I jump into the next question. But yeah, how could UI designs be misleading? Because that's something you talk about in the book.
Yeah, so a lot of people also wonder sometimes, like, is the design the truth? Like, if I get design, do I make this pixel perfect? I know I'm going to be on a touchy subject here, but like, if you think about like, especially nowadays, maybe not so much when I started with iOS 4, but nowadays you have so many variations with screens, right? You have dynamic type, dark mode, accessibility, left to right to left. Like when the designer gives you a screen, that's not really always the screen. Like you can make it pixel perfect in the sense of you make sure the colors are correct and the board is all correct. But the side, I see a screen way more um, as a thing that is very dynamic nowadays.
Right.
Um, and designer cannot give you 12,000 variations, but like all the dynamic font size times all the dark mode times all the themes times whatever. So I think it makes sense to figure out with it. I guess the clue, the part of the story is to really work with the designer to figure out what is really important, and figure out what is sort of set in stone, like certain margins and
Hmm.
certain
Hmm.
colors and themes, and what things are sort of like open for interpretation and for variation. So I don't know, a designer may have like a large device to test on, but the next person may have a smaller iPhone, for example. The designer may want to do another round for just those devices. Like, so I guess it comes down to really figure out like what is really important for them and for the company, and not take a design as sort of the truth, because there is no one design. And yes, you can scale up the designs in some tools. You can scale it up so you can see how everything stretches, but it's still not, for example, a large font size with right to left and I don't know, a custom layout. So you're still missing
Right.
some versions. So yeah, work
Yeah.
closely, I guess.
I'm just thinking, like, if you've been doing this since iOS 7 or iOS 4, like, the amount of devices. I was thinking the other day about like size classes. Remember size
Yeah, yeah,
classes?
yeah,
Like we don't like now with SwiftUI, we barely talk about that, but like that was a big deal when they added that because like they had all these new phone sizes and iPad and
yeah,
all that stuff. So
yeah. I
yeah, it's
remember.
and the accessibility stuff you talk about. So one of the things you mentioned in the book that I have not I'm not against them, but I found them to kind of be abused a lot in the enterprise, and you're a big fan of is diagrams. Do you
Ah,
want to talk about how maybe diagrams, like, kind of, in your opinion, fixes a lot of the issues with misleading UI designs?
yes. So you mean like diagrams in terms of the landscape, drawing out the components needed, or
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah,
You have some really good
yeah.
stuff in the book too. Like you're talking about, okay,
Thanks.
this is the data flow, and this, like,
Yeah,
I, I guess I'll just get into it. Like my problem with the diagrams is they kind of they can be misleading too in how they might show like how we know exactly how this app is going to work,
yeah,
but then when you actually get into it, it's like, oh yeah, we had this one thing, now we have to change this whole diagram.
yeah.
And to me, sometimes like diagrams add more work than help, but you have some really good stuff in the book talking about how diagrams can actually be helpful.
So, so yeah, I'm using the diagrams in the book for the book itself, right? It doesn't mean whenever I'm opening Xcode, I'm drawing diagrams.
Yeah, yeah,
But I do think they're definitely a design tool for teams to align on what needs to be built. If you sort of, let's say you have a team, 5 iOS developers or whatever developers, they have to make something. Uh, you can talk about what you need, but you can also draw it out. And a diagram can just be even a little post-it note with a little pencil sketch, just to
mhm,
get people aligned. So, because there's a lot of risk of miscommunication, I think when you work with people, like everyone thinks they know what they know, but actually they don't, and
yeah,
they make and that and it's good to know what people are working on. But diagrams don't really capture the details. I think that's maybe the problem, because I can draw in a diagram. I can let's go back to the video upload just for consistency. I can
yeah,
draw
yeah, yeah.
like a data chunker and like a background upload. I can draw it in the diagram, but
Hmm.
it's not the program. There's a lot of details missing, right? But I can at least align with someone, like what are they going to work on? What am I going to work on?
Right, right.
But how to do it is sort of yeah, very platform specific, which is kind of like how I see it, at least, is there's room for interpretation. How we may all agree someone makes a video upload and someone makes the UI, but how you do it is maybe outside of diagram scope.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So, I mean, it sounds to me like you think the big plus with diagrams, and I totally agree, is probably like communication across. Like when you have more than like maybe like
yeah,
three people, I think a diagram, and like you said, it could be a post-it note, and it is also.
yeah,
It sounds to me like the diagram is temporary, I guess would be a good way to put it. It's not
It's
something you write in
initial.
stone and then it's like, okay, it goes into the documentation and it's forever there. Where, yeah, it's not in stone.
Sometimes
Um,
it can be. So I've been in projects where we had like
yeah.
documentation where you actually there was like a complicated flow, and this diagram was really like great because it was sort of the communication tool to decide when data is loaded and uploaded,
Oh, yeah,
etc.
yeah,
So
yeah.
so it sort of was like a source of truth in communication, but it depends on your
Yeah.
company.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that I think makes a total sense when you have a big team. And not, just in case you're ever wondering, nobody stays at a company forever. So if you're gonna pass that information down, like it's a
Yeah,
good opportunity there.
yeah. Of course, the hard part of documentation is keeping it in sync. But
Right.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. With a lot of larger companies, what are like some of the best ways that mobile, web, whatever, honestly, can align, especially with the back end team and making sure that they get what they need, but also like the front end teams understand like why mobile is doing things the way they do, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so maybe it's good to like talk into like in terms of an example. Yeah, so
Well,
for
come on, video
example,
uploader. Let's do video
yeah,
uploader.
let's take the video uploader. Like, wow. It's a great, actually, it's a great point. So video uploading, let's say you want to do like a background uploading thing, right? Because you have to with video uploading,
Right,
otherwise you always need the upload. That means you need some sort of way to chunk up data
right.
and upload it. So yeah, so when working with backend, I think there's a couple things. I think one thing you want to focus on, I would say, is getting to the integration as fast as possible. Because I think, and with integration, I mean making actual API calls. And I know that's kind of like the whole world of mobile, like how to make API call. But I do think sometimes people focus too much on like the UI, where they get a design, for example, again the video uploader, and they make it all like nice with the shadows, and then they start integrating it, and then they realize, oh wait, I have a complete misalignment here with the backend developer.
I
So
got this really cool Swift UI animation, but it's totally useless because our backend doesn't
yeah,
support it. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, whatever. So one thing I try to steer towards, and also do in the book, is to get the integration as quickly as possible. So when you do this, when you make an actual API call, you learn a lot. And the backend doesn't have to be ready, by the way. They can just have like a mock response, but you
yeah.
learn like how.
Which,
Yeah,
by the way, I wanna just say, like, I like what you did in the book where you had like the fake API. And I was like, why is he using thread sleep? Like, why? And then it's like, oh yeah, I see what you're doing because you want to like mock up the back end call in your app. So yeah,
yeah,
I
yeah.
sorry, I just wanted to mention that that's like a really good that's a really good way to like get some velocity on your mobile dev without
Yeah,
necessarily depending on your backend, assuming that you stay in sync with your backend. Sorry, I just wanted to say
yeah.
that was
No,
really
no.
cool.
Totally. So yeah. So what I want to steer towards usually is to get the the complete end-to-end sort of call ready as soon as possible. So like if
Yeah,
you have data and it needs to be uploaded, common scenario. But don't wait till UI is done. Like do it way earlier because you're gonna learn that you, for example, maybe the backend says he's ready, but your laptop cannot connect to staging. And like, oh wait, I forgot we have to give you a token. Oh wait, now you need some special rights you have to request, and now you're a week further depending on your company.
yeah, right,
Or maybe you need to get some tokens from this third-party SDK you use, and you're like, oh wait, I have to actually get more budget now because I'm a new
right,
employee and I need the budget for it. So whatever it is, like there are these things you don't know what's going to happen when you postpone the actual integration. So I
right.
think by moving them more forwards in your development process, and I know maybe it's not as exciting as UI for some people, you're gonna learn a lot quicker what problems are already there. And what's nice about that is you can sort of like quote unquote activate your team members to fix these issues while you're doing the rest, as opposed to getting everything ready and then you make a make a backend call and then realizing it's actually not working and then needing to add a couple more weeks of time to get everything ready. So that's one thing I would really recommend is to do to integrate as soon as possible. But regarding alignments, yeah, that to me just comes down to regular communication. It's hard to give you a pre-made answer for the situation, but like in case of video uploading, you have to think about like you know like what could go wrong, like what performance do you expect, like how often like can we hammer the server, like do we need to take some measures, or even loading data, like is there a problem if you start loading a lot of data from the backend, like do we need to do some local storage? That's something you may want to
Yeah.
consider.
Right.
Uh, yeah, a common one is I have a screen and I need 4 types of data. Can you talk to the backender to just give it in as one API call? That's always going to be a nice discussion. I feel like it can be worth it. For example, if you have more traditional REST API, you can say, you know what, can you give me the data in one format, which may be more work for a backender, and they may not want to do it because they can just say make 4 API calls. But if the Android developer also has to do it, and now the web developer also has to do it, it's actually a lot of work for all of them. So then you can have those conversations as well. Like, how can you consolidate certain data so that it's more consumable for mobile? Those are, I think, discussions you can have.
One thing I think is really helpful is demos, weekly demos of like
Yeah.
each team. Like, okay, let's see how the Android app works, and then like the iOS folks are like, "Oh, interesting, you did this," and the backend folks are like, let's not do that with the API. If you upload like that, it's
Yeah.
going to hammer our servers. Like you need to do some, and, and I think that's really like if we talk about meetings, like meetings can be awful, but like a good demo every week just to show off a feature that everybody is working on in parallel,
Yeah.
I think is going to be super helpful, making sure
Yeah.
everybody's on the same page.
Yeah, and or even internal builds. I love internal builds because it gets people excited. I think people see their work actually working in their own hands. I think is also an amazing tool on top
Right,
of
right.
demos.
Yeah. Um, so one term you used throughout the book is holistic driven development.
Yeah,
What does that mean exactly?
I made it up. So
We need one more driven
yeah,
development.
we need more HDDs, TDDs. I know
Yeah,
it's so I'm trying to
you
provoke a
should sell
little.
you should make a whole business of selling certifications for that along with your book.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, that's true. So, well, the thing is, it's not really one thing. So that's why I tried to give it a new name. But with what I call holistic driven development is a way to start from scratch. So someone gives you a feature requirement, and to have something working really quickly, but not only to just throw away as an experiment, but also to have it working for the long term. So you think about the domains that you need, um, like which types, which classes you need. You think about API design. You think about the boundaries of APIs, and then with that I mean the APIs of your own types. But to make it more concrete, let's talk about the video uploader. It's about a sort of top-down design method, which is not a new thing. But what I really propose is you work your way down. So you start at the top at sort of API design, how you would use this video uploader. So let's say I'm in. Let's say you have a teammate that also does the UI part, and you do the uploading part. Your teammate would then only be interested in the API of the video uploader. It doesn't care if it uses offline storage. It doesn't care if it uses background uploading. Like the UI part only needs to know, like, hey, I'm picking a video, I'm sending this video to you, and you handle the uploading. So these kind of barriers become really important. So with holistic driven design, what I try to share there is you start this sort of top-down driven development where you think about what's most important from the API side, but then internally it's all placeholders because it doesn't matter to the call side whether or not things are working, right? This can really speed up the process for everyone. But as long as you properly design the API boundaries of these types, then what happens underwater, can just be updated over time to like the real implementations later on. So that's kind of yeah. So I guess what that means is like over time you'll go deeper and deeper and deeper in your code base till you actually hit the real network calls and the real data stores. But those problems become so trivial at that point. All you have to do is quote unquote just make a URL session call and make a background task, and you're done. But because you've thought of everything else already, and you've thought of all the bits and pieces and how everything is calling each other, you can defer the complicated parts. That's maybe a long answer, but uh, yeah,
yeah.
that's kind
Well,
of what I told you.
It's funny you're talking about the complicated parts, and breaking things down because we were talking before the show about your neighbor and like one of our 500 Dutch guests that we've had on the show. And Donnie, your neighbor, had a tweet about abstractions, and how abstractions can sometimes be unhelpful. And you had some interesting thoughts about like over engineering and abstractions,
Yeah.
and like when they're helpful, when they're not. You want to kind of break that down as well?
Yeah, yeah. So I don't know if I could do it in a few minutes, but for sure. So I've been involved with tons and tons of teams who have made tons of abstractions or lack of abstractions, and me included, where I've seen everything go wrong and everything go right, basically. So I have a lot of. I try to distill a lot of. Like best practices that you can think of when you make your own code. Like, should this be an abstraction? Like very common, like let's say you have another team that has like a component you want to use it, but it's slightly different than what you really need. Like, what are you gonna do? Are you gonna make an abstraction and take something out for what you need, and then offer like a thing that you can build on top? Or are you going to duplicate it because it's too different and it's going to be too different? Or I see people post these tweets like, if it's used 3 times, then it needs to be made reusable, but not before. But like, that's kind of true, but I think abstraction is such a deep topic. Like,
Mhm.
for example,
Right.
just because code is reusable doesn't mean it's generic, or vice versa. And
Oh,
something does get
interesting. I like
conflated.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, and also sometimes it can be a good thing to actually start with a generic component, even though everyone says not to, um, because uh, like I give an example in the book. Like I make a little store. And the store is generic. It stores just generic things. Like it stores data that in an offline in an offline
Mhm.
way. But it is generic right away. It's not like used 3 times and then it's extracted into its own thing. It's already a reusable component which isn't reused.
Yeah.
But then is it? Yeah. But then is it over engineering? And I go about I go over that actually. And um, depending on where you are in the abstraction layer and where this component lives, you can also decide if it should be generic, if it should be serving other features, and if so, should it know about this other feature, and
Right.
why or why not? So those are topics I like to touch upon because I think a lot of stuff goes wrong there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What do you think is like the biggest mistake one can have when they're like abstracting an API
I,
in such a way?
I think well, maybe not the biggest, maybe the most common one is people conflating the type name with the instance name. So I'm going to give a classic example, and then maybe I'm going to maybe a bigger example.
Will it involve a
So
video uploader? That's the important thing.
yeah, oh yeah, it has to. Exactly. So let's say I have an image with a description and I'm using it for the video uploading, right? To show
Hmm.
you what the image is about.
Yep.
People may call this type, they make a component and they call it video image description. I have no better name right now. But I think that's actually already the problem that I see, because that is how you would use it, because how you use the thing is for your video image. So that would be the instance name, video description, for example.
Hmm.
That would be the instance. But people call it the type video description or video image description. Um, and the problem with that is that if you think about what the type is, so it's nothing more than an image with the description.
Hmm.
It has nothing to do with videos at all.
Right. It doesn't
So
have to. Right.
no, no. So what happens now is someone else also needs an image and description for an avatar, for like a person profile. Um, can they use the video image description? Well, they could, but the name doesn't make sense, right? It has video in it. So
Right.
something went wrong, but it is the same thing. Maybe the dimensions should be configurable, whatever, but like it's the same thing. So what I think goes wrong there is that people give the name of how it's used to the type, but it should
Okay.
be only given to the instance. But this is like a very maybe basic example, but it goes really far. Like you may have, let's say you have this payment flow, and
Yeah.
it uses um, screens that are backend driven. So like let's say the backend decides which screens are used to render the payment flow, to render the payment flow.
Right.
This may be called like payment flow, backend, I don't know what to call it, like backend UI, the
Hmm.
PBUI, and now everyone is using this PBUI system. But guess what? The whole flow doesn't need to know about payments at all.
Right.
It's about a backend UI driven thing. So it's used for payments. So people call it payments UI, backend UI flow, but it's actually a standalone backend UI flow on its own. So these naming things, I see them go wrong a lot, because if you would call it backend UI only, now you can use it for anything, and it's still just as reusable and generic as before. But it's the same thing, but the name is just better,
Right.
right? It doesn't sort of hint at how you should use it. I think thinking in more like an instance names. So the instance name could be a payment UI flow, but the type could be backend UI flow or something.
Hmm. Hmm.
That is
Right.
already that's gonna solve, I think, a lot of problems already people have, because
Yeah.
now you
Yeah.
can reuse it. Now the name is more clear. You know kind of where it fits in the abstraction layer. It's like it's not really a feature specific. It's more like a tool to help features and so on.
So let's talk a little bit about everybody's fun, like favorite topic, architecture patterns.
Yeah.
Um, how how do architecture patterns fit in with the design of your app? Like, at what point should you be like, okay, I need to use this pattern or that pattern with as you develop the app or as you design the app?
Yeah, so this is quite a minefield of a topic, but I'm gonna step into it anyway. I think,
Yay!
yeah. So when mobile developers talk about patterns and architecture, they usually only mean UI architecture. Um, like we have Viper view models, composable architecture, MVVM,
Composable,
whatever,
yes.
MVP, everything, and reactive, whatever. Um, but it's usually UI based, and usually the problems are common problems are related to binding data to UI.
Hmm.
If I want to sort of maybe simplify it too much, I'm
Yep.
gonna get a lot of
No,
people
totally,
angry.
totally.
Uh, but the way so what was your question exactly? Like, how does it fit in the development?
Yeah, when you're designing the app, like how can you look at that UI design or maybe the diagrams that you've built and be like, okay, like this is the architecture pattern we're going to be using for developing the app.
Yeah, yeah. So well, I may have a strange opinion, but I feel like it usually doesn't matter.
Hmm.
In my experience, it's more about preferences from what I've
Hmm.
seen. Because I've seen people make great apps with many patterns, but I feel like there are like some guides there. You can say if your app has a lot of like live updating data, then maybe you're more partial to using a reactive pattern, because it's otherwise hard to keep everything
Right.
constantly updating. But
Yeah.
but I would say, so what I'm usually leaning towards to is try to keep things as simple as possible, and that's easy to say. But I feel like sometimes patterns can be too much of a crutch. Like if someone
Right.
says I need like a 5-letter acronym to make this app, then I'm kind of getting nervous. Like hold on, like like why? Like some to be honest, sometimes screens are can be simple, right? You fetch some data and you render it. Like
Right.
there's millions of tutorials on that already. So why do we need like a 6-letter acronym or something, or 5-letter acronym to solve this? But I think the real issues are more related to different issues that people face, and I think a pattern may help sort of get people used to how to make an app. So that's sort of like a crutch. Like oh, I'm used to using MVVM. I'm used to using SwiftUI with composable architecture or whatever. Like I'm going to use that. It's going to solve a lot of problems for that person. But I feel like um, over in 2 years there's going to be a next pattern, and there's going to be a next one after 5 years.
Yep.
So that's kind of
Yeah.
what I want to hint at as well. Sorry.
No, I think you hit it on the nose. I think it's helpful for teams, like larger teams where they need to agree on like, okay, we need to add a new screen. Okay, this is how we add a new screen for this large app. I think that's helpful. I think,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think it can be too much of a crutch because like you said, they change a lot, which we'll get into third party libraries. It's the same situation. And it's sometimes a bit of an over engineering of how something works. To me, like patterns come out of how you've designed the app, it's not something you go, okay, this is what we're going to do and we're going to move forward with
Exactly.
it. And
Yeah.
then it's like there are definitely anti-patterns. There are definitely, I think it's like I said, based on your team. It's also based on the underlying platform. Like in Swift UI, like you never want to do MVC. Sorry, you don't.
Yeah.
Like don't do
Yeah.
MVC. Like that's obvious. Uh, but like there are multiple patterns you could use. There are ways you can use combinations of different patterns, and I think like that's where like how in my opinion, architectural patterns fit in really.
Yeah, I do agree with you. It's a good alignment tool. In larger companies, it is nice to have like a sort of alignment. Okay, like these are sort of the patterns we will use
Yep.
because let's say in a large company, people say, can I use Combine? Can I use RX Swift
Hmm.
or whatever? Like they will ask, and it doesn't make sense to just mix and match because everyone has different preferences. I would say try to pick the patterns that work for your company.
Right.
If you just have a bunch of table views, why go all overboard with all fancy stuff? Just make a little small view model. But maybe you have a live updating chat service, and maybe reactive code base makes a lot of sense.
Right. Right.
But don't
Exactly.
mix it all up. I would say try not to.
Um, so let's talk also about like libraries and like trends in development because that kind of piggyback off of that, where it's like sometimes using third-party libraries can be a crutch as well. Sometimes it can be helpful to get something done quick.
Yeah.
Like, where do you fall on that spectrum? I guess.
So early in my career, I was really like excited about third-party libraries, like especially for example, I did like Ruby development, and I could just grab a couple of gems, and it's working, and I'm good to go. But now I'm a bit more apprehensive because well, the problem I find is there are a couple of problems. I feel like the third-party library should really solve a major issue for you. Because if you just very easily add a third-party library to your application, then well, you risk that the maintenance is slow, so you have to do some due diligence. There's maybe a legal department in your app team that also has to approve. Um, there may be issues with like I remember having had issues with Swift releases, then that impacted some of the party libraries, and you
Right.
were just 1 week too slow. So now you were actually depending on them to do the work. People you don't know, and that's kind of I feel like a problem. But there are safe bets for sure. And for example, if I'm gonna want to do image caching on a UI kit, I'm not gonna reinvent the wheel. I'm just gonna grab Kingfisher or something, right? Like I'm
Right.
not
Right.
gonna be
Right.
like wasting my time. So I would say be like treat it like I say also in the book, like treat it like cinnamon, like a little bit here and there is good, but not too much. It ruins everything.
Yeah. Don't want to eat a
That's
spoonful
kind of
of
my
cinnamon.
stance.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think like to me, like a good indication is open source. Like if for some reason people aren't like you got to think like if people aren't maintaining it, then at least could you take that fork it and put it in and use it yourself and do whatever you need to
yeah,
do because that's always an option.
but a
um
huge investment. You have to keep that in mind. Yeah,
yeah, so
yeah,
like is it worth building it yourself or is it worth using the library and then maintaining it yourself if need be? Like yeah, and like is it used, is it updated? You don't want to I've seen libraries that are still on Swift 4 or Swift 3 and I'm just like yeah, okay, this
yeah.
is this is dead. Like and just yeah, keeping that in mind.
Yeah, sometimes teams are really. I mean, I think it's wonderful that people work for and use their free time to build something for people that they can use. But I think you just have to be careful to make sure that yeah things are not slowing down your company, your business. Because that's going to be painful. The time gain you get is going to be lost when teams are just slow to update their stuff. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yep,
give a helping hand if you can, contribute stuff like that. You got to keep that all in mind.
yep, yeah. Let's So I want to talk about we'll talk about testing first and then I'll get into interviews last.
It's a lot of
Uh
minefields.
yeah. So
That's good.
you have some interesting things you wanted to talk about when it comes to testing. Um and yeah, that you wanted to talk about. So cuz I mean I think testing is
Sure.
super important. I think
Yeah.
like code coverage is a nice indication but not the be all end all.
No.
But to me, like testing also is a good way to have a healthy architecture in the end as well. What's your take on testing when it comes to systems design?
Yeah, so I feel like it's good to know kind of the things you're really trying to solve in a mobile app. I think a lot of people they make something new and they write a test for it and they merge and then and then if there's something in during the release cutoff where you like make a release build for internal checks before you submit it. Uh, I think that's where the real testing happens sometimes, where you make. So let's think about the process, right? Like you have the main branch, you're gonna make a release, you cut off the branch, you make a release branch, and then maybe, let's say in a company, you have like a week long where people check the code, they translate the
Right.
copy, they check, they do manual tests, all the stuff. It's the app is UI tested or your unit tested, but the real issues usually come out there because um, the hard part about mobile, what I find, is the whole release process. We can't just quickly roll back a release. We just have to push forward, and
Right.
we can use feature flags and stage rollout to sort of remedy the shortcomings. But once the crappy broken build is out, you have to be quick.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
if yeah, so what I want to focus on is how can you get more guarantees before you merge, and not just for your own piece of code. And I think what I see a lot, which is also what I used to do, is like I make a new class, I have to test it, so I add an interface like a protocol, and now I can test it, and now it's swappable and it looks green, it's great, and the CI says everything is green. I merge it, and then it goes on the release train, and then we see like, oh, it's actually not working as well as we hoped, and it's already too late. So
Hmm.
what I want to focus on is uh, what I've seen a lot of good results with is testing with more actual code, which goes against the entire concept of units.
Yeah.
So a lot of people don't like it. I know they don't, but it actually does work well if you can. Um, let's say I have like a complete stack. Let's take the video uploader, and I have
Hmm.
like sort of data chunking logic, and I have like uploading logic, and I have like my API calls, and I have like the video uploader component itself. Some people may say, you know what, I'm going to take the video uploader and I'm going to mark everything up below because now, not because that's the only thing I need to really test. It's the most important thing, and my tests will run quickly and so on. What I would say is, well, test everything, test the video uploader, make it use all the real types.
Hmm.
Only mock out the tiniest part, which is the API call itself, not
Right.
the complete API domain, only the tiny function that makes the call. And now when you test the uploader component, you indirectly test everything. So it's kind of like integration tests almost, but without view API calls. It's kind of like you may call it component testing.
Okay.
But I want to take it a bit further and say you want to test as much as real code as possible, and that gives you a lot more guarantees in how your code is actually used.
Okay. So is it different from like because it sounds like you mock the API, the backend, but then you test, but you're not testing the
So
individual pieces. You're testing a whole set of pieces as they
yeah,
integrate,
so
except for the
yeah,
backend, I
so
guess.
yeah, but let's say I also have like file storage. I will probably in some cases also test file storage. A lot of people would say don't do that because it's like global mutable state.
Hmm.
But well, I actually did work on a video upload, and I caught issues by actually testing the file storage. Now the problem is it's slow, it's I/O, things go wrong. But I'd rather know that during my unit test phase than merging it, having it on
Gotcha.
my test screen, and then go to the release and then be like, oh wait, it's actually not working on Mac or something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh,
So
interesting. Yeah, because I've run into that before. That's a really good point where I've like downloaded large files or uploaded large files, and like, yeah, if you can test that out, would that be a good case? Like in iOS world, would that be a good case for like doing a UI test, maybe, or would you still do it as a test case?
so I think writers are amazing. And a lot of people actually don't like them. I like them a lot because if I give a manual tester my new feature, they will grab, I don't know, 4 phones and they'll test it for me, right? And but they can only test so much. They will not test that if I have like dark mode and a large font size and right to
Yep.
left on an iPhone 5. Only then there's a major bug. But
Yep.
like it's hard to find. Not saying you writers will also find those, but like let's say I minimize my screen, like a background the app at one of the 60 screens, and on one of those screens the app crashes. Like
Hmm.
I've had that happen. manual testing is not really going to find that as quickly. And I
Right.
find UI tests are amazing that you can really scale up all these variants. You can do like, let me just take 12 devices and all these variants and just go ahead. But people don't like them for good reasons. They don't like them because they're slow. They're slow to write. They're slow to run.
Yep.
They're brittle. They're flaky. And I get all
Yes.
that.
Yep.
But I do see a lot of value that even running them like nightly and getting some reports can already be like a little bird in the coal mine. Like it gives you already some warning. Like careful, like 1 week before the release cutoff comes, you
Yeah.
already can get some problems noted. Even though maybe some tests are flaky and they're red, but maybe they're fine.
Yeah.
It tells you something, right? I see a lot of value in that actually.
Um. Yeah. Well, before we, so I want to let's ask one more question about.
Sure.
So your book is actually pretty like it's not focused on iOS. Like obviously your expertise is in iOS and Swift, but it's not really focused just on that. There's sample code mostly in Swift, but you're a lot of this could be applied to like web developers, Android developers, etc. Um, is there anything in particular iOS and Swift folks can take advantage of when building an app in particular to their platforms?
For in regards to system design,
Yeah, yeah. Is there something
yeah.
like you're like, here's an example in Swift or an Xcode or iOS development where it's
Mhm.
like you definitely this is one mistake I see folks do when it comes to systems design for iOS or Mac
I
OS or
see.
whatever.
Yeah, exactly. I think system design itself is more it's not so much focused on the details. It's more like language agnostic, and like yeah, like you said, like the book is not specific for iOS. But once you go into the details, it does matter which language and which platform you're using. So I don't think there's like one specific problem that iOS developers do that Android developers don't. I think it's more about the constraints and limitations we have.
How would
So
you like? Is there something about Xcode that can maybe help you like be more consistent with your design? I guess.
yeah, so I do think large-scale iOS apps are it's maybe not in every company, but it's not really something that Xcode is really fantastic at yet.
Hmm.
Like I've fought packages for years now.
Yeah.
Like I remember when Swift came out, you can only have 6 Swift packages. That was the limitation that
Are
was
you
set. Like if you
serious? Oh
launch
my
it,
gosh.
yeah, something like this. So because it was all like Swift 3 or something. It was early days, and I get that.
Yeah.
So I do find in iOS you're more limited to having fewer packages, or at least that's how it used to be. Whereas Android developers could just have like 80, no problem.
Right. Right.
So that does impact like how you think about like maybe larger modules versus like lots of tiny little interface modules everywhere.
Yeah.
So I do think that matters. I
One
do
thing
think.
I've
Oh,
started doing is breaking down. So I don't know. I'll call it package driven development because I want I want to make
yeah,
that trademark that so I can
could
cash
be
in
the
on
next
it.
one.
Yeah. So one thing is like my most of my apps are all stored in Swift packages. There tends to be very
Yeah,
little code in the actual app, and I've started breaking down my Swift package targets as much as I can. Both for faster development because obviously you
hmm,
got parallelism going on, but also just easier maintenance. Like, okay, this is the part that does networking. This is the part, and it's a separate
yeah,
target.
yeah,
And that I found a bit like very helpful. We can get into modularization. That's a whole other episode. But
yeah,
I think that's a big thing. And I can't speak for my friends who do Kotlin or TypeScript or whatever, but like when it comes to Swift, like taking advantage of making packages as tight
yeah.
as possible and as small into as small as possible, and then making those dependencies much easier to maintain, I
Yeah,
think is
it's
super
definitely much
helpful.
easier.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's not like a unique Swift iOS thing, but it's definitely helped that Swift is so much easier now to set up a package environment for sure.
right,
There may still be some issues with Objective-C mixing and like other problems people are having, but like when it works really well.
right, yeah. And I think like that's a big thing. I think is just breaking your things down as much as possible. When we had Aviel on, we talked about like don't just have one giant environment object. Break it down, like
Yeah,
breaking things down into smaller pieces is both helpful for maintenance and helpful for building and helpful for testing. I mean, there's just so much you can
I
gain
definitely
out of that.
agree.
Yeah.
and it creates these hard boundaries between domains. If you grab the right domain, right, it's can be really powerful that someone isn't accidentally importing UI in a sort of a data part. That can happen when you don't have these boundaries. So it's really great.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so before we close out, I wanted to talk about interviewing, and interviews. That's something you talk about a little
Hmm.
bit in the beginning of the
Hmm.
book. Um, yeah, go ahead. Because I know there's a lot of people who are interested in interviews and getting the right job
Yeah,
nowadays. So,
yeah.
and you talk about that a bit, especially in the context of systems design. Yeah, do you think the process is broken? What do you think as developers who are interviewing we should be doing better when
Yeah.
we are interviewed and also interviewing, I guess.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting because it's sort of like a new thing where there are already system design interviews for backend and now more and more for mobile,
Mhm,
but it's not really sure what you're gonna get. So I've heard and seen interviews where you get a UI screen and they say like, "Hey, how would you make this?" And you would write a pseudocode, right?
mhm,
Like a shared text editor, and you write some view controllers, but it doesn't have to compile or anything. But they would say like, "Oh, would you use a table view or a collection view? Like, what if there's lots of data needs to be stored?
mhm,
How would that work?" But I've also seen interviews and also been part of interviews where people just give you like a prompt. They just say like, "Hey, make me this thing, like the video uploader. How would that work?" And they just give you nothing else, and you have to ask questions, figure out what they need, figure out what the requirements, think about the limitations, and they're really looking for these signals that you come up with all the edge cases, all the problems, all the components that are needed. What I find hard is to say, study these 5 things, and now you're ready for interviews. Because first of all, you don't know what you're gonna get, and second, the interviews all over the place.
yeah,
Um, so there are guys like that say like, learn about key chain versus core data versus property list, and I think that's good to do. But it will not guarantee you a good interview result. What I think is really important, and which is also why I'm writing about it, is more like to be able to come up with a solution for something you've never done before. But because there's one thing you can expect, you're gonna have to make something you've never made before.
right.
Like if someone asks me like, hey, make an AR image video filter thing, I've never made that before, but like how would I approach it? Well, I would come up with components and domains and like limitations, maybe mobile limitations, maybe processor capacity, I don't know. Those are kind of the things that interviewers want to hear. They want to see you think about all the important parts that are needed. And um, so yeah, I guess one big takeaway would be you cannot really prepare for one interview, but you can train yourself to ask the right questions back, to get like a better idea of what's being asked of you. You can use some tactics to like design your application without knowing the details, and that's exactly what I've been trying to help people with. Yeah.
Do you
So
think it's something that's easy to study for, or is it much suited for a mobile developer with a current position to build experience so that way they can? Because it seems like it's an experiential thing more than a studying thing, to be a mobile
yeah,
systems designer. You know what I mean?
I think yeah. So I do think it's an awareness thing. So if I give maybe someone just starting out like a feature, they may go straight to UI, for example. And if I give like a staff engineer feature, they may ask me if it should support all the teams in the company. I don't know, a completely
Yeah,
different angle.
right.
And I do think you can study and prepare for like asking kind of what's required of you. I
Hmm.
think that goes a long way. So
Yeah,
if you know what to ask for, like know like, hey, they're giving me half the information, I need the full picture. That's already a great step. If you
yeah.
just start programming, I think that's more of a problem. So I think you can train it to some extent.
I think it's totally healthy to have like a two-way conversation when you're getting interviewed on a complex question like that. I think sometimes people who are interviewed get a little bit intimidated, like they think they're supposed to know the answer. Like it's just here's the
Yeah,
question, here's the answer. But
yeah,
I think
that
sometimes
makes
when
me
they
think.
like, and as somebody who's done interviews, like I think it's important to realize sometimes those open-ended questions are there because they want to have a conversation with you. They want to know that you're asking the right
Yeah,
question, and like it's just to get a good feel of someone being like, having a little bit more confidence, and instead of being like, okay, I'm gonna go make the best video uploader. It's like, no, slow down, like
Yeah,
ask
it's
them the
not
right
about that, right?
questions. It's not a right and wrong answer. It's much more of a
Yeah.
of like, we're trying to get a good feel of this person to see if he's going to work with us or she's going to work with us, and she
Yeah.
knows and has that experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
And they may test your communication skills, and
Yeah,
one person
exactly.
tests your iOS knowledge. You don't know, but like it's good to
It's not a
yeah,
binary. There's no right answer, especially
no.
there is no
But
right
this,
answer to a video uploader. Sorry about
that's
that if
true.
that's what you're looking for.
Multiple ways to
Um
run.
uh I think we talked about everything except the most important thing. When is this book going to come out, and how can I get it?
Well, I'll give it on to you. But it's coming out. No, but it's coming out in 2023 somewhere. I'm
Okay.
halfway there, so but I can't exactly give a date yet. But I will make it ready for pre-orders once half the book is done.
Okay, do you have like a mailing list folks can sign up for?
Yeah, I do have one. I can send you the link.
Yep,
I'll
and we'll put
share it
that
with
in the
you.
show notes. So yeah, definitely.
Oh, perfect.
This is awesome. I'm so glad somebody's coming out with this book because it needs to be done. There's
Yeah, I felt like
way
it was
too many
missing.
books about how to make Swift UI do a shiny animation, and we need more.
Everything has its place.
Everything has its place. That's true. That's
Yeah,
true.
yeah. That's true.
But if you have run a large team, or you have a large enterprise app, and or you're a mobile developer and you're looking to take it to the next level, I highly recommend checking this out. The link to the mailing list will be in the show notes, so you can check that out and get an update when that book is ready. I've looked at it. There's a lot of good, solid stuff in it. Cheer, thank you so much for coming on. This has
Yeah.
been fantastic.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It's
Yeah,
fun.
yeah. Where can people find you online?
It's probably better to spell, but it's at Tjeerdintveen, TJEERDINTVEEN. Yeah, I guess that's the best way to go. Just find me on Twitter.
And we'll have the links to Twitter, LinkedIn,
Yeah,
Mastodon, all that fun stuff in our show notes. People can find me on Twitter at LeoGDion. My company is Bright Digit. I'm on I gotta say Mastodon now. I'm on Mastodon too, at LeoGDion at CI.im, and LinkedIn as well. If you have any questions or feedback, let us know. We'd love to hear from you. If you're listening to this on a podcast player, please take some time to put in a review. This is YouTube. Please like and subscribe. Really would appreciate that. Next episode in 2 weeks will be with Marin on his new app DataTile, so definitely check that out. I hope everybody has a good week, and we'll talk to you later. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.